everyone, welcome to this fun little channel of mine. I've made a second version of this video to highlight the soft and magical crunches of needle felting. So if you'd like to check it out, it'll be linked down below. Today's creation is a bit different to my usual videos, but just as exciting. Today I am needle felting my logo. A quick little run through of the list of tools I'm using for this project, starting with the basics, which is a felting mat, a wooden embroidery hoop, linen fabric. I use this for 99% of all of my 2D and flat landscape pieces. It's very easy to work with, so it is by far my favorite fabric to use in these projects. And I of course need wool. I've got the three main colors that are featured in my logo in carded wool, which is two shades of purple, one called Wild Orchid and the other French Lavender. And I've also got a snowy white color for those few small spots of white. And I can't start needle felting without a felting needle. I believe I used a 38 gauge triangle needle here. A fine tipped marker, but you can also use just a regular pencil. I use it for drawing the picture's outlines onto the linen fabric. And a pair of card brushes that I didn't end up using again. I promise I used them most of the time. And of course I have my lovely muse. This little unicorn is one of the first creations I ever made. Maybe around the 5th piece, and it's become the inspiration for my current logo that I use for my Etsy shop and my YouTube channel. I am absolutely in love with my little handmade logo. I'm very proud of it, so I thought it'd be nice to give it a bit of an upgrade from the drawn and colored in logo to maybe more professional look. So to give it a little more pop and detail, needle felting my logo seemed to be the obvious solution. Now that I've got everything in place, let's get everything set up and get this project started. Setting this all up is roughly easy. I've got my embroidery hoop that is about 9 inches in diameter, and I've also got my linen fabric to go inside it. I know it's a bit wrinkled now, but it's okay because once it's held into the embroidery hoop, it'll straighten out. And I don't want there to be any loose fabric, so once it's held in the hoop, I'll pull on the edges as I rotate the hoop around, and it'll create a solid canvas to felt on. I know my canvas is ready when the embroidery hoop is at the tightest notch and the linen fabric is sturdy to the touch and has a bit of bounce, almost like tapping on a drum. And after the canvas is all set up, I'll draw my logo on with that fine tipped marker or pencil onto the linen fabric, and the drawing can be a bit messy because it'll get covered up with wool anyway. And now that we're all set up, we can move on to the main part of this project, and that is coloring in the drawing with wool. I like to start felt paintings from top to bottom, coloring in larger areas first. There's a few little spots that I'm a bit worried about where it blends from one color to another, so I've just taken that into account for when I get to those areas. But besides that, I am ready to start felting. If you're wondering why I'm using different colors than what are shown on the unicorn, the original colors for the unicorn are pink and dark purple, but I decided way before that I liked light purple and dark purple for the logo. So I'll start with the light purple carded wool called Wild Orchid for the main body. So to start felting, I'll take a small tuft of wool and slightly roll it into a ball and carefully felt it into the linen. And I'll try to felt it in the lines to hopefully not go over them, but if I happen to, linen is very forgiving and I'd easily be able to pull the wool out and refelt it in properly. The wool is really soft and fluffy, which makes it really easy to felt into the fabric. The usual way of felting a 2D picture is on felt paper on top of a felting mat, but since I'm using linen, it's best to keep it in a hoop to keep it from getting creased, so it doesn't scrunch up when being felted onto, since it doesn't have much structure like felt paper does. And just like felting on felt paper, it takes a lot of poking to make the wool fibers tangle. But for linen, it might take a bit more, since it doesn't have something already felted to integrate into on the other side. But don't worry, because when more wool is poked through, it all gets felted together. A few things I like to do when I'm painting a 2D picture is, firstly, I never want the fabric I'm felting on to be visible. So to avoid it from showing, I make sure I make a thick layer of wool and felting that same thickness evenly throughout the picture. And it's also good to note that if the wool is unleveled, the picture can look and feel bumpy as well. And what helps with both of these is putting it up to any bright light. I usually use the sun, and you'll definitely see where there's thin spots and need a bit more wool felted in. Another thing is, for usual pictures like landscapes, most of the time natural borders happen between the background and the foreground of the picture, and that'll give it a natural depth. However, since I'm felting a photo of a logo which doesn't have a background, without an outlining border, it looks to be a little bit flat, so to give it depth and not to lose the outlines of the drawing, I'll make a border with roving wool to keep it visible. So after felting in small and large areas, I'll felt a border around it with brown roving, and I'll keep to this and continue to add borders between the colors to keep them visible and separate. And this is where the majority of my voiceover will end for this video. My aim for this video is to be relaxing and to show the full process of this needle felting project. So with that, I hope you enjoy the rest of this process video. And as I mentioned earlier, as a quick thought, if you'd like to only hear the soft sounds of needle felting, I have an alternative video for you on my channel, which will be linked down below. When I got around to finishing outlining the hooves of the unicorn, I wanted to make the white part around the hooves look fluffy. At first, I didn't know how to make the white and fluffy feathering look around the hooves that horses have that make them look so magical. So I was thinking and thinking, and I ended up coming up with the idea of why not layering the wool like I do in my 3D projects. And this actually turned out so beautifully, and as magical as I had hoped. And after I layered, I went in with my scissors and even gave the layering a bit of a wavy look. And for the finishing touch, you can't have a unicorn without its horn, and I made sure to use the cutest pastel yellow that I had to really make it sparkle. So what do we think of the finished piece? I have to say I'm super happy with how this turned out. I think it really is an upgrade for my logo. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful in any way. As always, please like and comment down below. It really helps my channel grow and encourages me to make more videos just like this one. And don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!